Takadosh Boker or Masechet Shevuot Daf Yomi Daf Tet Zayin Amud Aleph 16a1 says the two dots. We're on the top, the second line on the page. Kol shelo naasit bechol elu. If you do not make any tosefet in the azara, which is brought down over here, what does that mean? He comes and he says, no, it's fine. He says, if you're not going to come and not going to make any tosefet of the azara, which means you don't add the azara with all these things, with the king, with the prophet, with the this, with the that, with all the things, so it's nothing. Itmar was stated. Ravuna says, Bechol elutnan. We need all of these things. Meaning, if you don't have everything, you didn't do anything. Yeah. Rav Nachman Amar be'achat mikol elutnan. It's one of them. Meaning the kiddush is going to be chal, even if you have one of these things. Meaning, even if it's only the king, or only the Kohen Gadol, only the Urim Tumim, only Sanhedrin, only one of them. Sasufi. Someone speak. Yeah, one is already enough. There's machloket. Rav Huna says everything. Bechol. Rav Nachman says, yeah, you need the king, you need the Navi, you need the Sanhedrin, you need the all Yisrael, you need singing, you need the Todah, everything. According to Rav Nachman, one of them is enough. Yeah, it's very much easier. One of them is enough. Yeah. Rav Huna comes and he says, Bechol elutnan. Katsavar, but he holds, Kedusha Rishona, Kichal L'Shata, V'Kichal L'Atil Lavo. He says you need all of them because it's the same Kedusha, meaning the Kedusha which David and Shlomo did in the time of the Bet HaMikdash. He comes and he says was the Kedusha, right? Then, but it was also the same Kedusha which is going to be for generations. The Ezra, so why did Ezra need to do this? Ezra needed to do this like Zecher Be'al Mahudata. He wanted to do the like a Zecher. What do you mean like a Zecher? A remembrance. Rav Nachman comes and he says, yeah, be'achat mikol elu tnan. What does that mean now? Be'achat mikol elu. He comes and he says, be'achat mikol elu tnan means kasavar he holds kedusha rishona kichal l'shla v'lo kichal l'ati lavo. It wasn't kichal l'ati lavo, and therefore Ezra was kedusha kedish, right? Ezra was mekadesh. Be'afagav dalav urim v'tumim, even though he didn't have the urim v'tumim. Okay, so therefore he was able to be mekadesh, even though he didn't have the urim v'tumim. Et ve'rav al Rav Nachman. So Rava comes and he asks the question to Rav Nachman. Kol shelo naasid bechol elu. If right now, right, there was no tosefet in the azara, right, when the ones are going to come, right, and they're going to go into this. So what's going on? So Tani is, so therefore we went and we learned be'achat mikol elu. Be'achat mikol elu means in one of these things. Okay, what does that mean? One of these things. In one of these of the kiddushot, that's already going to be enough. Okay, fine. Tashema. We're going to come and we're going to now bring the following, right? He comes and he says as follows. Yeah? He comes and he says like this. Yeah? Tashema.
You at Abba Shaul?
Yes, we're in Abba Shaul. Yeah? He says like this. Abba Shaul comes and he says, Shne bitzin hayu be'ara mishcha. There were two different, right? Agams. Like agam is like a swamp. Okay, a marsh, swamp, a swamp. Yeah. So he says like this: there were two different swamps. Yeah. Yeah. Right. He says like this. Yeah. Can I have order in the court, please? Yeah. So he says like this. He says, yeah. He says, Shne bitzin hayu behar hamishcha. Right. There's going to be two swamps in Har HaMishcha. Ma? He says here, Tachtona ve'elyona. He says there's going to be the lower one and the higher one. Tachtona nikacha bechol elu. So the lower one, already during the first Bet HaMikdash, was already sanctified and was made holy. Ve'elyona lo nikacha. And the top one was not sanctified. Okay? So he says, yeah, he says this, Ela be'ole gola. But rather with the Ole Gula, right? Shelo b'melech, v'shelo be'urim v'tumim. Not with the king, not with the urim v'tumim. Remember that Ole Gula were the ones that came up from the exile. Who was the ones that brought them up from the exile? Ezra Sofer. So Ezra Sofer, there was no king at the time, right? He says it was Ezra Sofer. There was no king. There was no urim v'tumim. Okay? So therefore, he says, "Atachtona shayta kedushta gemura." So therefore, the bottom one, which was done with the Kiddusha Gemura, the Amei Haaretz were able to go in there and they were able to eat Kadashim Kalim, but not able to eat Maaseh Sheni. V'chaverim ochlim sham Kadashim Kalim Maaseh Sheni. But the Chaverim were able to eat there, right? Kadashim Kalim and Maaser Sheni. So here it says that it's mutar to eat Maaser Sheni there.
They're eating
right?
in marsh?
Yeah, they're eating in that area. In that area.
Marsh.
What? You go to the park and you start eating. So same thing. You're going to this area and you're eating over there. Here it says, Amei Haaretz were careful not to eat their Maaser Sheni because they understood that since they already had a minhag of separating Maaser and everything, so they wanted to do it bihidur. So therefore they didn't want to do it over there. They didn't want to eat it over there. Okay? So here it says, right? Elyona shelo hayta Kiddusha Gemura, the top one, which was not the Kiddusha Gemura, the Amei Haaretz used to go in there to eat the Kadashim Kalim, which was not right, but not Maaser Sheni. And the Chaverim, they don't eat their not Kadashim Kalim and not Maaser Sheni. So everyone realized that Amei Haaretz, why are they called Amei Haaretz? Because in both cases, they did the wrong mistake. In the first case, where it was a real Kiddusha, they were allowed to eat their Maaser Sheni. Because you're allowed to eat Maaser Sheni in all Yerushalayim. But they didn't want. They were like, if they're already doing something, they want to do a Beidur. And in the second case, where they're not allowed to eat the Kadashim Kalim there, they did eat the Kadashim Kalim there.
These are Kohanim Amei Haaretz.
Which one? No. Kadashim Kalim, you're allowed to eat. Kadashim Kalim. No, not Kohanim Kalim. Right? Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Right? Kadashim Kalim, yeah, Kadashim Kalim, right, is any parts of the animal that you were allowed to eat. So, for example, you brought a peace offering, a shlamim. So you would be able to eat part of the animal. Or shlamim, a bechor, right? All these things. So all these things that you're allowed to eat, which are Kadashim Kalim, that you're allowed to eat. So therefore they come and they say, this is going to be what's happening. You're allowed to eat it, but you have to eat it inside of Yerushalayim. What? No. Doctor, please explain to him what is Maaser Sheni.
The first 10% you give to the Levim give to
Exactly, that's Maaser Rishon.
Second one that they give to.
No, that's Trumat Maaser. Maaser mina Maaser. Maaser Sheni is the second 10%. No, that you separate it and you take it to Yerushalayim and you eat it in Yerushalayim. Yeah. Now, if you redeem it, you have to add a fifth. That's Maaser Sheni, and that is in years
2, 4, 5.
1, 2, 4, 5.
1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Maaser Sheni ולא של הלוי?
לא. So he says like this. אבל לא מעשר, והחברים אין אוכלים שם לא קדשים קלים ולא מעשר שני. ומבנה מה לא קידשוה. So why didn't they make it holy? So he says, ומבנה מה לא קידשוה, שהם אוספים על העיר ולא זול, בין המלך ונביא ונוי טובים ומצדדים שבעים אחד, ובשתי תודות ובשיר, ולמה קידשוה? So what are you asking the question? You need all these things in order to make it holy. So if you don't have all these things in order to sanctify it, that's why they didn't do it. Again, you need the king, right? You need the Navi, you need the Sanhedrin of 71, you need the Shir, you need the Todah, you need the Israel. You need a lot of things here. What does that mean? Yeah, fine. So says the Gemara, Lama kichua? Hamarta lo kichua. Ella lama ichnisua. Right? Why did they put it inside of the city then? Meaning, if you're going to tell me that they didn't sanctify this area, why was it part of Jerusalem? Meaning, it's very confusing that you're going to tell me that it's part of the city, but it doesn't have the same Kiddusha of the city. People will get confused. Just say, this is the suburbs, this is the outside of the city. And then they say, why is it inside of the city, but it's not part of the city? It's confusing. So he says, he says, because he says, if they wouldn't have included this part in the city, it was the easiest place to conquer the city through that area. Meaning, if you're going to leave it on the outside of the city, so it's not part of the city. So what happens? Somebody wants to conquer Yerushalayim. What do? You go into that area, you take that area, and from there, it's an easy conquest. You're able to
do with anything.
So because of that, what they did was that they considered it part of the city. Once it's part of the city, people would live there, and it would be fortified. It would be mamash part of. When you have a city, how do you make the city? You come and you make a city, and you're going to put walls around. You're going to put, the different things. You have Iron Dome. You have the. If it's outside, what do I care, right? So what happens, right? A different form, right? So what happens? What happens is that when you're going to come and you're going to have that it's part of the city, you're protecting the city. So many times, even though it wasn't really part of the city, because it didn't have the same kedusha as the city, they included it in the city to make sure that nobody will be able to conquer Jerusalem. They wanted to make sure that there's no, weak points. So they made sure that that was also included in the city. Okay. Answers the Gemara. Tanaihi. The machloket Tanaim. Yeah, what does it mean, machloket Tanaim? The Tanam, as we learned in a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Amar Rabbi Eliezer, says Rabbi Eliezer, Shamati kshayu bonin ba'Hechal. I heard that when they were coming and they were going up to build the Hechal during the time of Ezra, asu klaim la'Hechal uklaim la'azarot. They made curtains, whether it is for the Hechal or for the Azarot. Yeah, and then, right, Ela shebe'Hechal bonim b'chutz. The Hechal, they build it on the outside of the curtains. Uba'azarot bonim bifnim. And the Azarot, they're going to build it on the inside of the curtains. Yeah? Look in the picture. If you look in the picture, everyone has a picture?
Yeah.
So look in the picture. You have the ktalim is the regular line, the regular line, and then you have the dotted lines, right, which is the curtains. So in the ktalim, right? So sorry, in the azara, they had the dotted lines, which are the curtains, and then they used to build it on the inside. Yeah, everyone sees it. They built it on the inside of the curtain. Yeah. Afal pi she'en bait, even though there's no, right? There's no, the Hechal was not built. Ochlin kodshei kadashim, you were able to eat the kodshei kadashim in the azara. Afal pi she'en klaim, right? Even if it's not going to be, there's no klaim. The kodshim kalim masashani afal pi she'en choma, and you're allowed to eat kodshim kalim masashani, even though there's no choma to Yerushalayim. Why? Meaning, the fact that when they came and they sanctified, whether it's going to be the Azarot or they sanctified Yerushalayim, they sanctified at the beginning, it's going to be Kichal Atil Lavo, it still has a Kedusha. Meaning, even though physically right now it does not have the walls of the city of Yerushalayim, I could still eat Maser Shani, right, in Yerushalayim. And even though physically I did not have the walls of the Azara, I could still eat the Kadashim Kalim, right, or inside of it, or the Kochek Kadashim inside, right, of the Azara in itself. Okay, so that means basically, even though I don't have the physical walls, the fact that it was sanctified from the beginning, it's still sanctified now. Okay.
The dispute in the Gemara, your Yeshua is bringing the opinion that once they sanctified it, it was sanctified for all time.
For all time. That's exactly what we're doing right now. Okay, so that's why it says it's Nahi. So Rabbi Eliezer says, this is what I heard. Shamati min Rabotai, this is what I heard from my rabbis, that again, that when they used to build the Hechal, they made the curtains, right, for the Hechal and the curtains for the Azarot. But from the Hechal, they're going to build it on the outside of the curtains. In the Azarot, they're going to build it on the inside of the curtains. Then it says, Rabbi Yoshua comes and he says, Shamati Shamakim, I heard that you could build it even though there's no Hechal. You could eat Kalshek Kalashim even though there's no Klaim. You could eat Kalashim Kalim Masashani even though there's no walls. You could do all these things. Fine. Right? Says the Gemara, Lav Miklal, is it not that a machloke between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua? Right? The Rabbi Eliezer Savar, the Rabbi Eliezer holds, Lo Kichalati Lavo, that it was not sanctified for the future, and Rabbi Yoshua holds that it is. Meaning we're having here a machloket. Do we say that when they came and they sanctified it the first time around, does it always stay holy forever? Or do we say they have to re-sanctify it again? Kichalat, right? Kichal Shatav Kichalati Lavo, or Lo Kichalati Lavo. Okay? So he says, Amale Ravina Ravashi. He says Ravina to Ravashi, Mimai, who told you such a thing? Dilma de Chuli, maybe everybody holds it is going to be sanctified forever. And Rabbi Eliezer holds more. What did he hear? He just said over what he heard from his rabbis. And more the chitim, and if you're going to tell me Klaim Rabbi Eliezer Lamali, why do I need in the Klaim then? Right? You could bring all korbanot even without the curtains. So he says Tzniut be'almahi, meaning they just did it for Tzniut. It wasn't fitting that people should be able to stand and see whether it's going to be the shulchan, the menorah, mizbach haketoret, and also the outer part, even the azara, right? That everyone should come and see the mizbeach. There was a certain level of holiness. What does that mean? We know that the more that a thing is holy, the more tzniut it has to have, right? The Sefer Torah is inside the Bet Knesset, is inside a Hechal, is behind the curtains, whether it's the curtains are in front of the Hechal or behind the Hechal or whatever it is. But I'm saying the more Kiddush, the more that something is, the more that it is sanua. Okay? So therefore, I couldn't hear you. Yes, 100%. That's sanua. Sanua means modest. Modest means that it's going to be, right, in a place where you have to conceal. So here, technically speaking, even if you're going to tell me that it already had the Kiddusha, I don't need the curtains. I don't need anything. This is a Makom Azara. This is the place of the Azara. This is the place of the Echal. This is the place of... But he says, no, it's still not enough, right? You're going to come and you're going to have to come and you're going to have to do the... How do you call this? You're going to have to come and you're going to have to put curtains in order to be matzniya, because it's not kavod that you have, whether it's going to be the shulchan, the mizbeach hapnimi, the menorah, or even the outside where the mizbeach is. There has to be a certain level that it's like hidden. It's something which is sanua. Okay, so he says ella rather hani tanahi, whether there's another machloket tanaim. Let's see another machloket tanaim, whether it's going to be kachal shatak or kachal latilav or not. So the Tanya was we learned in a beraita. Amar Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yosef, says Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yosef, Lama manu chachamim et elu. Why is it the rabbis came and they counted these things, right? Shekshalu b'nei agola, because when they went up from the b'nei agola, matzu elu v'kitshum, right? They found them and they sanctified them. Aval rishonot, right? But the first time, right, around, batlu, right? It was batel kedusha. Mishebatla haaretz. Once it was going to be batla haaretz, which is kedushat haaretz, when the churban by the midrash. So Alma see from here kasavar kedusha lishan kishal shata velo kashalat levo. Did you realize here it says why is it that we're talking about over there that they had houses which was batei arechoma? Remember batei arechoma, which are basically houses which are within the walled cities. They have a different law than all the other houses in different cities. Different cities, you sell a house, right, and then afterwards you get it back in your bill. There's no problem. Walled cities, the second that you sell a house, you have the first year to buy it back. After the first year to buy it back, Kaddish, you lose it. There's no Yovel. Yovel doesn't take it out. Yeah, it stays there. So here it says, we ask, why is it that the rabbis counted these cities by itself? He says there was a lot of other walled cities from Yoshua bin Nun. So they answer, no. When Bnei Agola came up, right, they found these cities, right, Mukafot Choma, and they sanctified them to make them Batei Arechoma. The first cities, it could be maybe they did have walls, but then when they came up, they didn't sanctify it. And if they didn't sanctify it, it's not holy. So now if you're going to tell me that it's not holy because it wasn't sanctified the second time around, it's mashma that when they came and they sanctified it the first time around, it was not forever. You have to re-sanctify it. You have to come and you have to do it again. And that's what they did. So Urmini, we have a contradiction. It says, Amar Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yosef, it says Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yosef, V'chi elu bilvadayu. He says what? Are you going to tell me that these 8 cities were the only cities which were Mekufot Choma? But lo bekvar ne'emar, it was already says, Shishim ir kol chevel argov, mamlechet og babashan, kol ele arim betzurot choma gevua. When they came in, already as part of the Mamlechet Gog, there were 60 cities that were already fortified cities. Arim betzurot choma gevua, tall walls. Mamash, they were very fortified in Eretz Canaan. They weren't just stam, yeah. So why do we only have these 8? Because these are the only ones that they found and they actually sanctified. So it's only because they sanctified them that they're going to become holy. Kitshum, I thought you said that you don't need to sanctify it. They found these cities and then they counted these cities the way that they are. So he says, Kol mitzvot elu nohago ba. All these mitzvot are going to be noheg ba, mipnei, because of, it says over here, kedusha rishona kitcha latid lavo. Yeah, fine. Here it actually brings down another 2 halachot also, by the way. Not only is it about the selling of the city, he says you have to send out the mitzoreim outside of the wall, which is mukaf choma, and also he says the changing a migrash ha'ir, right, into the ir and everything, which is basically, you have like the outskirts of the cities that they used to make very beautiful into the actual city in itself or not. So there's few different halachot, right, which they would have for walled cities. So he says like this. He says, Kasha de Rabbi Shmuel bar Yoseh, ad Rabbi Shmuel bar Yoseh. So here I have a stira between Rabbi Shmuel bar Yoseh to Rabbi Shmuel bar Yoseh. Why? The first braita was pasak Kiddusha Rishona lo kishalati lavo, which means that it's not going to be sanctified in the future. And the second braita, it is going to be sanctified in the future. And it's the same rabbi saying it. So what's going on? Do we say that when they sanctified it, it was forever? Or do we say not? That's the question. So, if you want, you can answer Tere Tanai Aliba de Rabbi Shmuel bar Yoseh. There were two Tanaim, Aliba de Rabbi Shmuel bar Yoseh. If you want, you can answer Chada Minai. One of them is Rabbi Lazar bar Yoseh Amra. Is Rabbi Lazar. It's not Rabbi Shmuel bar Yoseh. It's Rabbi Lazar bar Yoseh. The Tanya was willing to the brighter Rabbi Lazar bar Yoseh Omer Asher lo choma. What does it mean Asher lo choma? Af al pi she'en lo achshav vaya lo kodem lachem. Meaning, even though right now it doesn't have a wall, but it once upon a time had a wall, it has the din of eid of mukefet choma, because Kedusha Rishona was not batla, which means I don't care about what it is now. I care about what it was back then. So once upon a time it had a wall. If it had a wall once, it's already enough according to the Shita. That is the Shita of Rabbi Lazar bar Yoseh. So the minute, even though right now they broke the wall, doesn't matter. It still has Kedusha. Huh? Yeah, there's a few places. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Until here we're clear? Fine. Okay. 2 dots. Tetzayim ubet. Nitma ba'azara v'nelmu mimenu tuma. What happens right now if the azara was nitma, which means became tameh, and he didn't realize that he became tameh? So what happens? He has to bring korban olev yored. Tuma ba'azara minalan. How do we know that the azara could become tameh? Meaning, how does that work exactly? The entire building becomes tameh. So Amar Rabbi Lazar says Rabbi Lazar. Katuv echad omer. One pasuk says et mishkan Hashem timeh, which means that anybody that's going to touch a dead body, he's going to contaminate, right? Impurify the mishkan Hashem. The katuv echad omer. One pasuk says, right? Ki et mikdash Hashem timeh. So one of them is mishkan and then mikdash. Now, why do I need these 2 psukim? Right? So one of them is talking about that a person that's tameh, right, from chutz mikdash, and he's going to become tameh when he comes into the mikdash. And the other one, so what do I need it for? So obviously we don't need it for that. We could learn it for something else. Right? So he says, Ukrae miatre. He says, are you going to tell me that both psukim are extra, that you're going to come and you're going to add an extra pasuk? Meaning, if you're going to tell me right now that both psukim, it's all in the same in Parashat Chukat, right? We just read it for the Paraduma. Yeah, for Paraduma, right? Bar mitzvah, 100%. Yeah, you think I don't remember? Yeah, it says Bar mitzvah parasha. Yeah, so he comes and he says like this. He says, right? It says that we just read it for Parashat Para, by the way. I remember that 4 of the 4 main parashiot, the 4 like parashiot in Adar. So therefore, right, the 4 parashiot in Adar. Yeah, so there it says Parashat Para. Paraduma reflects of it's a reflection of sanctity, of purity. Right, when a person comes, right, when they become pure, right, they get sprinkled. Ma? Wow. Yeah. 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 So what happens is, right? It's he says over here, yeah. It says over here that you have 2 psukim saying the same concept, whether it's Mikdash Hashem Timeh or Mishkan Hashem Timeh. So how does that work then? So no. So then that's what we're saying. So we're saying that if you didn't need it, so then we could add in that even the Azara could become Tameh. Because if we're not talking about the person that comes in Tameh, because it already said it once, so it's extra. So the Gemara is going to say, Ukrae miyatre? Are you going to tell me that the pasuk is extra? He says, we need it. The Tana was going to the Braita. Rabbi Eliezer says, Im ne'eman mishkan, lama ne'eman mikdash. If it already says mishkan Hashem timeh, why does it say mikdash Hashem timeh? V'im ne'eman mikdash, why does it say mishkan? So he says, ilu ne'eman mishkan velo ne'eman mikdash, If it was only written the Mishkan and the Mikdash, הייתי אומר, על משכן יהיה חייב, right? שהרי משוח בשם המשחה, ועל מקדש לא יהיה חייב. I would have thought to say that it's only the Mishkan. The Mishkan is the only place you're going to become חייב karet if you go inside. Why? The Mishkan was anointed with the Shem al-Mishcha. The Mikdash was not. So I would have thought that there's no problem. Meaning that, again, maybe lechatchila no, but it's not that you're going to be chayav karet if you went into the Bet HaMikdash, right? V'yim ne'emar Mikdash v'lo ne'emar Mishkan. If it was only written Mikdash and not Mishkan, הייתי אומר Mikdash יהיה חייב שהרי קדושתו קדושת עולם. The Bet HaMikdash is kedushat olam. The Mishkan is not. וכך נאמר, that's why it's written both. So therefore, if I now needed both the Mishkan and the Mikdash, it's not extra to learn for something else, that it itself could become tameh. We were talking about somebody that's tameh that's going inside, that he's going to be chayav karet. Yeah? Now, if you're going to tell me it's extra, because I didn't need to tell it to you, so then I could learn, listen, not only are you chayav when you go into it, but the actual Mikdash or Mishkan could become tameh. But if you're going to tell me that it's not extra, and I needed it, now why did you need it? Because of what I just explained, right? So therefore it's not extra. Once it's not extra, how do you know that? So he says, Rabbi Elazar, Hachi Kashale. He had a question like this. Michti, let us see. Mishkan, Iker Migdash, Umigdash, Iker Mishkan. Do we realize that the two words are, I don't know how you say it in English, the best word to say it? All-inclusive, right? What does it mean all-inclusive, right? Each one is called that. I don't know. Yeah, I won't pay attention. You have Mishkan is called Mikdash, and the Mikdash is called the Mishkan. Nichtov o idi ve'idi Mikdash, or idi ve'idi Mishkan. So the question is, right? The question is, why don't I write both of them Mishkan, or both of them Mikdash? You understood? אני יודע, זה הבעיה. יש לי 3 שיעורים במקום אחד. אז אם זה אותו דבר, אז תכתוב או משכן משכן, או מקדש מקדש. זה לממשוס. Yeah. So that's the question. So he comes and he says this. He says, משכן מקדש, למה לי? So why do I need both? So he says, שמה מינה תרתי. So it comes to teach you both. It comes to teach you 2 different things. Number 1, coming to teach you that there's a chiyuv karet on both. Of course, one's a Mishkan and one's a Bet HaMikdash. The Mishkan was put in the Genizah. After the Mishkan was destroyed, you were still allowed to have the Bamot, right? The Mishkan was Betzalel. It was put, the portable one. The Mikdash is forever. Afterwards, again, it's going to be destroyed, then we go again, and then it's destroyed, then we get it again. But fine, but the Mikdash, the Bet HaMikdash is completely different than the Mishkan. Yes, one was transportable, one was not. One there was as long as they kept on moving the Mishkan, but remember the Mishkan was in different places. The Mishkan Shiloh, Mishkan, right? There were different places where they had the Mishkan. Yeah, there was different places where the Mishkan was, right? And therefore it was Bitzalel, yeah, but yes, Bamidbar, yes. Okay, so therefore it was movable. It was moving around. So therefore that was the Mishkan. The Mikdash is the Bet HaMikdash. It's the same concept, but it's not really 100%. It's the same concept. It's like telling me the Bet HaMikdash or the Bet HaKnesset. But every Bet HaKnesset is different.
The only reason why
we learn from here that there's going to be the kefel of the psukim is going to teach us that there's a chiyuv karet, whether you came into the Mishkan or the Bet HaMikdash. And also the shinui lashon is the din of Rabbi Elazar, that there's going to be chiyuv karet also lemisha nitzma bifnim. Also, if somebody is going to be tameh inside as well. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara. Yeah, fine. Says the Gemara like this. Bishlema mikdash ikre mishkan. It's good, guys. Bishlema Migdash Ikri Mishkan. I understand that the Bet HaMikdash is called the Mishkan. Dichtiv Venatati Mishkani Vitochem. I place my Mishkan from within you. Now, therefore, it's going to be not only the Mishkan, it's also the Bet HaMikdash, right? So he says, but Mishkan that is called the Mikdash, how do you know? So if it's going to be because it's written in Aswa Kiatim no Mikdash, there it says Mikdash, and they weren't carrying the Mikdash. There was no better Mikdash yet, and it was carrying it. Obviously, it's not that. How about Tiv? There it's Aaron. Ela Me'acha, there's another pasuk. Ve'asul Mikdash Shachantim Tucham. What is that Mikdash? That was also the Mishkan. Because it says, Kechol Hashirin Manet Otecha Tavnita Mishkan. So you see from here that the Mishkan was called Mikdash, and the Mikdash was called Mishkan. So therefore, a person, even if he's going to become Tameh in the Azara, he will be Chayav. Okay? Fine. 2 dots. Imagine a person became Tameh in the Azara. If he becomes Tameh in the Azara, he's going to be Chayav. How long does he have to stay there when he's Tameh? So it says, in order to bow. Which one?
Half a loaf.
1 second. So he says it's in order to bow down, or that he did bow down, or in order there's the time to bow down. So Amar Rava comes and he says, Lo Shanu, what are we dealing with? Ela shishtachava klape pnim. If he's bowing down towards the Mikdash, which is towards the west, but if he's bowing down on the outside, right? Shaha'in lo sha'alo. Only if he stayed enough time, then he's going to be chayav. If not, not. So he says, Ika dematla seifa. Let's see the seifa. O shasha b'chtiyah shtachava. That he stayed there enough time for bowing down. Miklal dishtachava gufa bayashiyah. So it's mashma that the actual bowing down also had to be that you're waiting there, right? That means you stop. You not that you're running out and you're bowing down. So Rava says, Lo shanu ela shishtachava klape chutz. You're bowing down outside. That means in the inside, if you're going to bow down towards the inside, even if you didn't wait there, you're going to be chayav. This is what it means to say. Hishtachava klape pnim, sheshaha kedei hishtachava. V'hach hishtachava de klape chutz chayav. So he says like this: when you bow down klape pnim, you're chayav immediately. Meaning, if I bow down towards the inside of the Bet HaMikdash, towards the west, you're immediately chayav, even if you didn't wait. But towards klape chutz, it has to be that it was sha'ak kedei hishtachava also. You wait. You're going to be chayav when you stated basically like this. A person became tameh in the Bet HaMikdash. What does he have to do? He has to run out. What happens if he doesn't run out? So he's chayav karet. Why? Because he became tameh. Yeah, he's tameh in the Bet HaMikdash. He's chayav karet. So says the Gemara, 1 second. How is it called ishtachava that he's bowing down, that you have a shiyah that you're waiting? And how is it that ishtachava without shiyah? So he says, delet bashiyah zu kriya be'alma. Just stam, he bowed. Tihid bashiyah is that he bows on all 4. You know, there was a pishut yadayim v'raglayim. They used to go on the floor, right? When they used to bow, there was 2 types of bowing. Bowing like what we do is like, like a little, thing like that, and we continue running. And then the bowing is that you get on all 4. You get on their legs. What? Yeah, kemo shchiva. It's a pishut yadayim v'raglayim. Not exactly, but something like that, if you want to call it. It's not exactly like that. Yeah. So the pishut yadayim v'raglayim, that is the one, right? That is going to be that has shiyah. The kama shiu shiyah. Pliga bar Yitzchak bar Nachmani v'chadime. Umani v'chezo v'shomam brazi. Sabik says v'shomam pazi. One of them was with him. Who's that? Yitzchak bar Nachmani. V'amlan sabik says v'shomam bar Nachmani. One of them says kememre dehai psuka. The time that it takes to say this pasuk, yeah, which is the pasuk lefanenu, right? So he comes and he says, okay, the time that it takes to say it slowly, not quickly, not slowly, yeah. One minute. He says, one of them comes and he says, Kemi v'yichreu l'seifa. He says it's like the seif of the pasuk of Vayichreu until the end of the pasuk. Basically, there's a pasuk in Divrei Yamim, and this pasuk of Divrei Yamim, where it's telling you that you have to go out, where it says V'chol bnei Yisrael roim beredet ha'esh, Kvod Hashem l'bay v'chreu apayim ha'aretz al ha'ritzpa v'yishtachu v'odol Hashem kitov kilu l'mchasto. That is the amount of time, right? That is called shehiyah. If you read it regularly, not too quick and not too slow. According to the last shita, right, which is right, one of them said Kememredai psuka, this entire pasuk, and one of them said, right, one of them says that it's from Vayichreu until the end. Meaning, look at the pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'chol bnei Yisrael roim beredet ha'esh u'chvod Hashem al habayit vayichreu apayim ha'artza al haritzpa v'yishtachavu ve'odot l'Hashem ki tov ki le'olam chasto." How long did that take me? Okay, whatever, 10 seconds, let's say. Some people say it's the entire pasuk, and some people say it was vayichreu apayim arza ala ritzpa, meaning from half the pasuk onwards, right? Now again, no matter how big it was, right, we're talking about that you waited that time. It's a bizayon, meaning as long as you're running out, that's fine. Right? You didn't wait there. You didn't do anything. So if you were all the way inside, right, but you're a Kohen, so you're Ezrat Kohanim, right? So you're all the way inside, and you're running out, that's fine. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan. Which one? Tanu Rabbanan, we learned the Braita. Kida. What is Kida? Kida is alapayim, meaning like this. There's many different languages for, how do you call this? There's many different languages which is used for when we're talking about the concept of bowing down. There's Kida, there's Ishtachavaya, there's Kriya. So we're going to go into each one. It says Kida. What is Kida? Is alapanim, on the face. When you bow with your face. That's called, that means it says, Eno nogea ba'aretz lo bibirkav velo biyadav. Mate panav ad sherosho magia la'aretz. Amash, you're putting like that. Just your head. That is called, your face is the panim that's called Kida. V'chen omer, 1 minute. It says, V'chen omer, so too it says, Vatikod batsheva apayim eretz, that she went and she put her face to the eretz. Kriya. What is kriya? With the birkaim, with the knees. V'chen omer, mikro birkav. Ishtachavaa, when it says ishtachavaya, that is pishut yadayim v'raglayim. That is mamash on your hands and your legs. That's what it says. But we're going to come and we're going to actually bow down, right? So therefore, what's going on? So therefore, right, the second one, right, which is going to be the birkaim, the pishut yadayim v'raglayim, everything is on the ground, meaning the hands, feet, and your face is in the ground. The other one, right, which is talking about the birkaim, right, is also panav. So you're using your knees and your face, right? So therefore you're using both, right? But it's not that you're on the floor, but your face is towards the ground, right? So he says, Baya Rava. So Rava comes and he says, Tzarich sheyah lemalkut, or en tzarich sheyah lemalkut. Do you need sheyah for malkut or not? So he says, lekorban, when we're talking about a korban now, give me the sheyah. Malkut lo give me the sheyah. When we're talking about now the korban, we already know that the sheyah, or do we need for malkut? You don't need sheyah, meaning if you want to bring a korban, you have to wait there. But what about malkut? Can I give you lashes even if you don't wait there right away? Or dilmar, maybe bifnin give me the sheyah. Right, the Chachamim come and they said that they are halakha to do ishtachavaya, to do the sheyah. Lo shna korban, lo shna malkut. There's no difference in korban or malkut. Teiku, we do not have an answer. Rabbi, Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen v'Amen. Rabbi Chanya ben Akashya omer